Sabres Live is presented by Seneca Resorts and Casinos. Nothing else comes close.
We are going to overtime.
Great to be back with you. It's Sabres Live Overtime. It's the all over the map edition, Marty. I apologize for this in advance, but when you've been in isolation, you feel the need to get out and, reach out to every aspect of what's been going on in the last 7 days and, of course, beyond hockey itself. But apologies that if my skin tone has matched my hat and jersey color, which is black and white, I feel like I've lost a little bit of the tone since the end of summer and now deep into fall. But it's great to see you. I wish it was under slightly better circumstances. Yeah. The Sabres have found themselves now losers of 3 straight in regulation. That is the second time in this window post Hockey Fights Cancer Night that they have found themselves in this situation, which is kind of my launching pad here. On Hockey Fights Cancer Night, they had one of their best goaltending performances of the year. Mm-hmm. It was Devon Levi against Minnesota. And since then, they've gone 3-7-1. But I feel the need to bring it back to goaltending because they had an exceptional performance from Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen in yesterday's game against the Nashville Predators, but did not come out with the victory. And goaltending, of course, has been a big story.
Yes.
Through all of this last 11 games, because Levi is now down with Rochester and Comrie and Luukkonen are trying to find their way. How do you view the goaltending within where they're at right now, which is basically where they were a year ago? And I need to stop talking.
No, I totally see what you're saying because it's so confusing, right? Like a year ago, you're thinking how the goaltending is not where it should be at. Obviously, we're going to hope that Craig Anderson can play some games and Eric Comrie. It was his first year with the Sabres and then he had the injury. And what do we get out of Luukkonen? It was still a big question mark. And I felt like this year, at least you could say, hey, this is going to be a positive. And look, the positive did not come from Devon Levi, although there was a couple of really performances that you're like, that's great. And that's maybe a look more to the future. It's fine. He's in Rochester now. He's developing, and that's good. Luukkonen's playing well. My issue is not so much with goaltending, is with the defending that is exposing some of the glorious chances, right? I mean, I hate when I get this sometimes from people where things are not going well and then they tease you with something good, right? You play in New Jersey and it's 7-2 and you're like, oh, this was not a good game. And then they tease you with that Rangers game and you're like, oh, yes, like give me more of that. And then after that, they go St. Louis, Carolina, where it's more of the New Jersey game and it almost kicks you back further than where you were, right? And so the goaltending in those instances, we're not, Eric Comrie blamed himself. He says, I need to be better. And I get that, as a goaltender, that's what you want to do. But I'm not going to say that goaltending is the reason why they lost 7-2, 6-4, and 6-2 in 3 of those 4 games. It is not the problem. Luukkonen has had a really good start to this season and has played like above my expectations. Great. Continue to do that. Comrie still hasn't gotten into his rhythm after the injury, kind of like last year, and he hasn't played a lot. So why do you add the 3 goalies? So for me, it's not about goaltending. The numbers are not where you want them to be. They're actually worse, save percentage-wise, than they were last year. Yeah. So that's tough, but there's
because
a few
of
games,
the last 4 to 5
because of
games.
the last, you got 3 games where you've given up 6, 6, and 7, and the shots were like 6 goals on 20, and 7 goals on. It's not like you're facing 50 shots, so that hurts. But the goaltending, in my opinion, is ahead of where it was last year. So I don't know. It's hard to look at the numbers and look at the eye test and say, well, what do you think about goaltending? I think goaltending's been fine. That's not the issue.
Well, some things within that, as far as how it ultimately impacts the game, they are still in a situation where opponents are scoring at a higher percentage on their high danger chances than what the Sabres are. In round numbers, it's basically about 12% for the opposition. It's about 9% for the Sabres. That's a big difference when you spread it out over the course of games. And, it's also, it ties in with where Buffalo was top 6 in shooting percentage overall in all situations last year, which led to them being a top 5 offensive team. This year, they're around 20th in shooting percentage, and you can look at any number of players through the roster that obviously aren't scoring at the same clip. And now they've added potentially to their injury absences in the roster with, future news on Alex Tuch this week. We'll see. So there's a lot to dive into there. But I do, unless you want to dovetail off of that here real quick.
I'll ducktail out of this because I have been
dovetail, not
ducktail. Remember the show Ducktail? It was like a cartoon back in the days. DuckTales.
No, but I have to apologize for something we talked about a while back when we were talking about lottery numbers.
Yeah.
The Lotto 636 thing was a deal in Quebec, but it was not. It was not in Ontario.
So it's 649, but we did have 636. My dad used to come home with a ticket for each of them.
I did the research.
Okay, good. I'm glad that I didn't even do the research. I'm like, maybe I dreamt of something, right? But anyway, here's the thing. I have been having this internal debate within myself the last couple of weeks here, the last 10 days probably, is with the injuries, right? And I look at it and I said, is injuries a huge part of what it is? When I hear Kevin Adams and Don Granado talk about compete, I'm saying it's not about the injury. It's like the compete factor has nothing to do with the injury. I don't care if you're a Rochester call-up, if you're a first-year guy or a 12th-year guy, the compete has to be there, right? But then I also look at some of the numbers. Last year, after 25 games of the season, you had 5 Sabres that had 24 or more points, almost a point a game, right? You had 5 of them. You had Tage Thompson, who's hurt, right? You had Skinner, who played with Thompson. You had Tuch, who played with Thompson, but now Tuch, we'll see what happens. You had Dahlin, and you had Dylan Cousins, who had a great start to the year last year, which earned him a deal and everything. This year, zero Sabres at 24 points or more. The closest is Casey Middlestat. And all of this is that I think that the Tage Thompson absence definitely impacts a lot of the results. Like if the Sabres had scored 5 more goals in the 9 games that Tage Thompson missed, 5 more, either Tage scores 5 or his impact is 5 more goals, they'd be top 12 in the NHL in goals for. Now, they're not going to get back to second in the league, right? Because the amount of guys that outperformed or had career year was incredible. So I'm not asking for second in the league, but if you're top 10, top 12, maybe it's a different thing. So that's where like my whole issue now is my internal debate is, are the injury to Tage Thompson and potentially Tuch or others affecting them not only like in the win-loss record, but in everything else falling into place? And so I said the numbers are showing yes, but then I hear coaches and Kevin Adams talk about competing. I'm saying, no, everybody should be able to compete and overcome that next man up mentality is what you need.
So where they're having the biggest problem clearly is first periods, game starts, and we could go through a bunch of numbers, but I'll spare you. It prompted the question to Don on Sunday, which I was going to ask regardless in a different way. Is this a physical or a mental problem or both? Because Don, of course, got into the psychology of, knowing the fact that you need to have a better start and all the rest of it. Like, how do you see it? Because like last night was another example of at the end of it, the numbers got closer and you could say, well, was that score effect? Because again, they were down early in the game. And it's just a natural progression that things are going to level out based on the fact you're trailing and you have to claw back. How do you view all this? Mental, physical, both?
Okay, so mental, I think that they are internally battling getting good starts and all of a sudden getting bad bounces or not having good start and having to claw back. Like St. Louis, for me, the Sabres outplayed the Blues and they're down 3-0. I'm thinking like you had the better chance. You had the better zone possession. You had everything. St. Louis just somehow scored on a faceoff, scored on a power play, and scored on a wide open rebound guy, Jake Neighbors, in front of the net.
Nashville scored on a faceoff too. And
Nashville scored on a faceoff, but I didn't think the Sabres.
No, I know, but I
didn't think the Sabres had the good start against Nashville. The high danger chances after one were 10-3 for Nashville. Now, second period got better, third period it flipped, and I think Nashville was just, they didn't have a good start to the season, 5-10. They were better in the last 8, 6-2, but they're still a little fragile in that sense. They backed off a lot on what the Sabres were able to pour it on. So that's the mental approach, is that when you have a good start, you're getting bad bounces and then you're back in your net. When you don't have a good start, you're still giving up goals. You're not getting that bounce. That's one. Two, for me, it's the physical side of it is more about what do you need to do to push the other team into making mistakes. Yesterday, I love when that happens. That doesn't happen all that often. After the first period, my breakdown in the first intermission was, look at Nashville. They're clogging up the middle of the ice, right? So what the Sabres are trying to do is play on the half wall, get it to the point, and then try to get a shot and get it through. It's getting blocked. They're not getting there. The one chance they had in the first period that I thought was good was a play from behind the goal line. So I'm like, hey, when you play from behind the goal line on a team that's playing zone coverage and is clogging the middle of the ice in the defensive zone, it's going to open up like options because everybody's looking at behind the net. They don't have their heads on the swell. And then in the second period, you got Dahlin chance, you got Dylan Cousins chance, you had Zach Benson chance, like from behind the net to the front. So I'm like, that's physical. Knowing what you need, well, it could be mental too, but knowing what you need to do and executing it early on. I don't think Don Granato went in the room after the first period and said, guys, we need to change the way we're going to approach the game. We need to completely change our attack. No, he's just going in and saying, hey, look at what we talked about pre-game. This is how they're going to play. Execute what we talked about, and you're going to get chances.
Yeah, take what's given to you, right? There's always going to be an area of the ice that you can expose. So this is kind of funny because it's also from behind the net in some cases, but it's at the other end. Yes. And my question to you, because you also illustrated this last night, tell me the benefits and the drawbacks to the repeated stretch pass attempts. They were very specific against Nashville. You talked about it many times this year based on how certain teams, Flyers, Rangers, etc., Capitals try to defend. Dahlin obviously hits a home run pass to Olofsson, which leads to the penalty shot, which leads to the goal, the only goal. And it was over and over and over again. And I'm curious, what impact this has on a game when you believe that your best option here is a stretch pass as opposed to coming out collectively as a group.
Well, I also think this comes to the whole injury issues, right? If you don't have Thompson and all of a sudden you don't have Tuck and you don't have Jack Quinn, then all of a sudden you're like, who are my puck carriers through the neutral zone? Who are the guys that can generate speed? Casey Middlestad's having a really good season, but he's not the puck carrier like going with speed through the neutral zone. So yeah, and Skinner's not that guy either. He's more like, get me the puck at the far blue line. Then I'll enter the zone. I'll execute something. So for me, the injury part of that affects how you want to play in transition. The Casey Middlestad goal in Carolina was on Saturday night, was a long stretch pass from Dahlin to Tuck. Tuck chips it in the neutral zone. Casey skates into it, scores, right? That Skinner tried one before the Olofsson penalty shot. Dahlin tried to hit Skinner in a long pass. But also, look at what St. Louis did, right? Look at what Carolina did. They did a lot of flipping pucks out in the neutral zone, a lot of long stretch pass. Why? Because the Sabres, in my opinion, are trying to be very aggressive on the forecheck that you back him off. So now, if the Sabres take a page out of that and they feel they have a lot of pressure under stress from the other team's forecheck, the long stretch pass is going to back him off because now, even though you may not execute it, if you just deflect it, put it in the offensive zone, those guys from the other team that are putting pressure on the D are like, I got to go back in the zone now because I overworked in the offensive zone. So it backs everybody off. So yeah, I mean, it's a low percentage play, I will say, the long stretch passes. But if you can get into a rhythm, because you really don't have a lot of speed in transition right now, you're missing a lot of big guys. That to me is maybe one way you can help transitioning from defense to offense. I'm not saying that's going to work every time, but at least it's one of the ways you can try to make it work.
Well, you said low percentage, and I'm going to agree with you. That's not to say don't use it. It's just, it does feel like you can't rely on it as an exclusive breakout attack method consistently through the course of a game. Now, you just said they maybe don't have as much speed right now, but we all know the puck moves faster than the man.
Yes.
So why are collectively, why are they having such difficulty going 2 passes, 3 passes, 4 passes? Is, again, I'll go back, like, is this other teams' adjustments, or is it self-inflicted right now?
I think it's mostly self-inflicted. I don't see this team moving the puck quickly. It's you get it on the stick, and then all of a sudden it's 2-3 strides, slow down, a couple of puck handle. Where's my next pass? And look, you do have some players that are playing in different roles, right? Different line mates. Casey Middlestat with Tuck and Skinner, they did it at the end of last year. They were successful. They kind of know where they are on the ice at all times. Zach Benson is getting there. Zach Benson is getting success and by hard work. His compete level is through the roof. And I think that's an example with all of that.
Zach Benson just had his best game in the NHL.
Yeah,
last night.
absolutely.
Oh my gosh, Marty.
But what is it? It's compete. It's
right.
compete,
Marty,
and compete.
He was 77% Corsi last night, 27 for, 8 against. Now, like, okay, you just opened up another thing here.
I said something out loud yesterday from the set, and about 5 rows in front of me heard it. So Benson tried to do
I
a
hope
backhand.
it was better than what Cousins said.
Yeah, no, I didn't say that. But it was between the legs, back, like a back pass between his legs, that I think he was going to Peterka or maybe Cousins. I wrote it down, but I didn't write to whom. I wrote, Benson between the leg pass. And I looked over to Christian, maybe on my right, or Howard, I don't remember. And I said, the kid's got confidence oozing him out of him, right? And then there's people in front of me in the set that kind of look back like, what's Marty talking about? I'm like, look, did you not see that pass? Like, he's got so much confidence oozing out of him. Like, it's incredible.
Individually, through his game logs, like, statistically, Sunday night was his best. And I thought it was amazing to watch him, because as you predicted in the preseason, and then as we have seen, he's no stranger to agitating. He's no stranger to taking penalties, and that's going to be good and bad over the course of his career. But there was a restraint last night. There was making sure, like, I'm going to do everything to upset them, but not take a penalty. He stood his ground. I'll tell you, I couldn't get over how good Zach Benson was last night. And then it led me down this path, which is evaluation versus expectation.
Yeah.
So Benson has now played 15 games, has 7 points. I'm going to say has lived up to or exceeded expectations as an 18-year-old on this team, based on he did everything right. He's done everything asked. So just keep enjoying it, right? Byro, Roseanne, Rusek, Kulik have combined to play 14 games. They have the 2 Byro goals, including an empty netter in his first game. And then I'm left with, okay, this is really unfair to compare. But it does.
So that's it. That's 2 points for that group?
For the whole group.
Yeah.
But they've also played very limited minutes, completely different situations and configurations. And guess what? If you're looking for a bright spot, the bright spot was the organization knew right from the start that Zach Benson was trending the right way and absolutely deserves this opportunity and deserved to go beyond 9 games and deserves to continue being in the top 6. The question is how do you evaluate the others, and how can they still impact this group and try to have an impact on this group to make it start trending the right way? And so, Marty, I'm sitting here not afraid, like, I'm unsure of how to ask the question, because I don't know how these guys are going to do what Benson has been doing.
So Benson has been put in a great situation. First, it was with, he played with Casey Middlestat,
because I feel like he's earned it. So
he's earned it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, Benson has earned himself a great situation.
Yeah.
There is injuries, which opened the door, and he blew the door out
long before that. He was on the top line in preseason, and he stayed there.
Yes, he was like, absolutely. But I think he blew the hinges off the door. And look, if you had your whole lineup healthy with Quinn and Thompson, like, you would have to play Benson in your top 6 right now, and definitely your top 9, but your top 6 and given that opportunity. Now, here's how you evaluate the other ones. It's not going to be every shift and every game, but for me is how comfortable are they getting with certain situation. And what I have liked is that Don Granato now, instead of playing Byro on a line and playing Roseanne on a different line and say, okay, we can't put those two together. He's put them together to finish the game. And it actually started the game before because, they, Greenway left. So you had to manipulate a little bit your lineup, but there was Roseanne with Byro and Olofsson as a line. And because they moved Jost with Krebs and Oposo, and for me, they didn't look out of place. So now I'm thinking, instead of putting players in a role that maybe is not suited for them, like Roseanne's not going to play a 4th line game. Like, it's not his game. It's not how he plays the game. But if you put him with Byro and Olofsson, maybe he can find some action, some interaction, some chemistry. And I feel that's when you be able to evaluate them better. If Rusek comes up, he's in a different kind of category. He's a little older, like Don Granato really like
younger
Rusek,
than Byro, older than the kids.
Yeah, but he's more of a guy that will be that bottom 6, even maybe 4th line guy that can play in different situation. So that's how you evaluate Rusek, not with the goals and the assists. I think the other players, Kulik and Roseanne and even Byro to that extent, you put him in a situation to have some jump, right? And play in a role that they were in Rochester. And I think putting Roseanne with Byro and Olofsson helped giving them that look a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he's still not getting a lot of minutes. Anyway, I just think, it's a worthy topic here because we don't know who's going to be in the lineup the rest of the week when they take on Detroit and Boston and Montreal and Arizona in the next 4 games. And, the coach said it, if not last night, then the game before, and probably the game before that. And that is, there is opportunity here because of who's not in the lineup. So, and that's the thing, so Benson has been consistently making the most of his. And I think somehow, some way, and whether that's fair or unfair, I mean, it's the NHL. If you're on the roster, you're an NHLer. So you have an opportunity to do something, right?
And there's a depth chart, internal depth chart. And if you're the next man up, you got to go out there and play it, and you got to fulfill a role. And look, I've seen goal scorers in the AHL get called up to the NHL and having to change their game and play a different game. That's how it works sometimes.
Well, I mean, it's not even a fair comparison, but I'll say this: a week from now, we're going to be seeing Arizona come in, and Michael Carcone leads the NHL in shooting percentage right now. Undrafted, 27 years old, has 11 goals on 33 shots. It's remarkable. And he's been trending the right way in the AHL. So again, park draft status. Guys can do this, right? And everybody has their time. All I'm saying is, I think Sabre fans would agree, now is the time for somebody, many people.
Yeah, many people are saying, hey, many people were excited to see Thomas Vanek his first year. He ended the year being a healthy scratch. It happens, but you also have to evaluate where they are. Are they 19 years old, 20 years old? Are they 25? Where do they go, right? That's how you do the evaluation of those players.
Okay, thank you for bringing this up allows me the natural segue. Victor Olofsson is the only Sabre in franchise history to go 2 for 2 on penalty shots. And he is the only player to score on his first 2 penalty shots. Now, Vanek went 2 for 5 in his career. Shatan went 2 for 5 in his career. Both of them scored on their first opportunity. Then it took multiple attempts before they got their second goal. So Victor stands in incredibly unique history because not only is he 2 for 2, he has not won a game. The Sabres have not won a game when he has scored on a penalty shot. So anyway, that's my digression for the podcast. I just thought, somebody might want to know.
I was looking at the names of that list of players in Sabres history that have had penalty shots. Gilbert Perreault 3 times, scored on one of them.
1 for 3, yeah.
1 for 3. I'm like, how did Dave Andreychuk get 2 penalty shots in his career? He was 0 for 2.
I know why he didn't score, because he was tired by the time he got there.
Well, yeah, he already had gotten a breakaway, which doesn't happen often. He's like, suck and win. Or maybe there was a puck being covered in the slot in the crease by a player, and the best player on the ice is, hey, Andy, you take that one. Yeah. How did Maxim Afinogenov only get 1 penalty shot in all his years with the Buffalo Sabres? The guy was always on breakaways, but maybe he's too fast. I know. But maybe Afinogenov was too fast. There was nobody that could check him when he got on a breakaway. But it was kind of interesting to look at that list, right? Brent Pedersen had 3 as well. There was a few guys with 3, and then you jump to like Vanek and Satan with 5 each, which was I could have probably guessed Satan. I didn't know Vanek had that many of them, but Satan always found himself on a penalty shot.
UC Saros, by the way, has stopped 6 of 9 in his career after allowing a 3rd one last night to Olofsson. The one thing people should not be surprised by is the fact that Nashville won on Sunday in Buffalo. They are 13-3-1 all time in Buffalo. That is their best road mark. And I was thinking this has to be such an anomaly, but it's not. For some reason, the Predators franchise loves New York State and area.
Yeah.
Listen to this. They are 45-15-5 all time on the road against the Sabres, the Rangers, the Islanders, and the Devils. That is a .731 points percentage, and it makes 0 sense, other than the fact that outside of the first few years, the Predators have been a very, very, very good NHL franchise and consistently have a winning record. But still, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. And then, UC Saros, who started his career 0-5-1 against the Buffalo Sabres, now won his last 2. His first NHL game was against the Sabres. And look, I can remember my first NHL game against Pittsburgh, and I didn't play well. And it always kind of gave me that bad feeling against Pittsburgh, especially when playing at the old Mellon Arena, the Igloo. So I was hoping that Saros would have that same feeling. Hey, you know what? Like, I've not had the numbers against the Sabres. He was really good. Although in the first period on Sunday night, he had some weird rebounds around him, but then he dialed it in. And a save he made on Dylan Cousins, that was incredible. And those are the type of saves that you need, right? You want a high caliber NHL goaltender, you need those saves. Luukkonen made some of those saves against Nashville. Just, gave up 2 in the first, and it was too much.
It was actually a really interesting 2-1 NHL game because both teams were close to 70 shot attempts. The goals for expectation wise should have been a lot higher, and both netminders kept it to a 2-1 game with outstanding play. It was actually quite enjoyable to watch the two of them in their craft last night. I know it gets lost in the midst of what is the reality, which is where Buffalo is struggling right now.
Yes.
Now, when you're serious about the game, bet on Buffalo with the only sports books in Western New York, Seneca Resorts and Casinos. The betting counters are open daily, and self-service betting kiosks are available 24/7 at all 3 locations. So whether you visit Seneca, Niagara, Allegheny, or Buffalo Creek, the Sports Lounge features the latest lines and multiple screens. Don't we know all about that, Marty? And so you never miss a play. And that's assuming your app is working, which mine now is. The Sportsbook at Seneca Resorts and Casinos, where the love of the game meets the thrill of the win. Yeah, not even a 2-hour phone call with Apple could prevent the Sabres from, losing last night. I got good technical help, so I feel like I was,
good for you. Good for you. Making sure that
I felt like I needed to tip the cap to them just because I cringe, like most people do, at the idea of having a long/unnecessary conversation about billing and or technical issues.
Yes.
But the rep on the other end with Apple was was pretty amazing. Like, I
did
felt
the work,
like,
so that's good.
Yeah. But it's impossible to not have emotions at this time of year, holiday season, and we think about so many, and this will be the first holiday season for the Johnson family to not have Adam who we lost at the end of October, that tragic accident in the UK. So as you know, I'm wearing the tribute jersey, which the Nottingham Panthers released as a way to raise money for Adam's family. And I just wanted to honestly thank them for doing this under the most impossible and unimaginable circumstances as an organization. And it's just nice to know that the hockey world can agree on one thing every now and again, and that is doing all they can to support the Johnson family.
No, and the hockey community is always there to support one another. We've seen it now for the last month with Hockey Fights Cancer and support that everybody's given. But the same thing here with Adam Johnson, obviously that's important. Now, here's my thing. Now, the World Juniors and every international competition will mandate neck guards, right? So it will be something that's going to be happening at the World Juniors this year. You're going to see every junior players with the long neck guards to protect themselves, right? Unfortunately, it took somebody's life to now mandate that. Remember years ago, that little girl in Columbus that took a puck, a flying puck from, that left the ice, and she later passed away at the hospital. And then they went to put the netting around. Like, there's been enough that we should know now to be proactive and not be reactive with these type of situations. And it's unfortunate because we lose people when we shouldn't. And so hopefully there's going to be even more changes that will come, not just with the neck guard, wrist guard, socks and leg protection, because there was a goalie in Niagara couple of years back that almost passed away from a cut in the leg. Like, you need to be able to be proactive now and not reactive. And unfortunately, this was a tragic incident that now will lead to change.
Around the NHL, quickly, what is one player or team that you want to mention?
I want to mention Quentin Byfield of the LA Kings.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Go.
Why? Why are you saying, oh my gosh?
Honestly, I was in awe watching him on the ice and off on Sunday night.
Yeah.
He was interviewed either pregame or intermission, and then because of his near first NHL hat trick, was interviewed postgame as well.
Yes.
And then everything I watched with him in game, I was in disbelief that this kid is still 21. Yeah. I was looking at him as this 10-year veteran, so mature, so ready to take the next step, and is doing so with Kopitar and Kempe. Man, what an impressive young man. It was really, really fun to watch.
So again, it tells me you have to be patient and you have to be able to evaluate the young players for what it is. Sometimes they're just young, right? Quentin Byfield played as a 19-year-old with the LA Kings at 10 points in 40 games, then played as a 20-year-old with the LA Kings at 20 points, only 3 goals in 53 games. You're thinking, like, is this guy ever going to live up to his draft pedigree where he was second overall, right, in 2020? And you're thinking, oh, maybe he will, maybe he won't. And then this year, now he's got 6 goals in the last, is it 6 goals in the last 6 games? No, it's 4 goals in the last 6 games, I believe.
Yeah,
but
he's been close to a point a game all year.
Yeah, so. He's 18 points. Yeah, he's 18 points in 21 games, but he does have 4 goals in the last 6 games. And he looks like, you say, a 15-year veteran on the ice. He acts like one. He's got strong maturity defensively to his game, and it's leading to offense. I have been really impressed with Quentin Byfield and the LA Kings.
Well, the one that I was going to bring up was Artemi Panarin.
Oh,
and honestly, I think it's really interesting that the greatest playmaker in the NHL since he came in, second only to Connor McDavid, has now become someone who is chasing the Rocket Richard Trophy. Do you know why this might be happening?
Well, it's not a contract year, so that's not going to work. Like,
he has taken his shots per game from 2.5 to almost 3.9, which may not seem like a lot, but 3.9 puts you in the realm of almost all the game's best goal scorers.
Yes.
And I find it interesting, obviously, which is why I'm bringing it up, that someone can, I don't know, adapt, evolve. I don't even know what the right word is, Marty, because it's not like the roster has changed that much in New York. It's not like he's being asked to do something different. All the same cast members are there, but he decided to shave his head and come into this season, and it's clearly a different guy for, obviously the benefit of the Rangers right now.
No, he's definitely and look, think about another player who was first overall that year that Quentin Byfield was second overall was Alex Lafreniere, right? And all of a sudden he's put in a different situation, playing with Panarin and Zibanejad, and he's moved around the top six, but he's playing with great players. All of a sudden Lafreniere is performing at a high level, right? Yeah. And it's working. Quentin Byfield's performing at a high level. It's working. Artemi Panarin, he's got a joy for the game, and you cannot stop watching him. And that's why, Patrick Kane's going to be coming into Buffalo on Tuesday night with the Red Wings. He may play his first game of the season. And I felt cheated last year when Kane went to the Rangers because he and Panarin did not get back that chemistry that they had before. Well, now you know why, because Kane was not healthy and he couldn't do some of the things. Right. But man, wouldn't that have been great to see Panarin and Kane do the things that they did in Chicago before, Panarin went to Columbus and then the Rangers? It would have been awesome. So I feel like we got cheated a little bit with that last year.
Okay, lastly, we'll end on the Amerks note. They are home this Friday. It's their only game this week. Amerks Amber Ale is back at the Blue Cross Arena this Friday, thanks to our friends at the Genesee Brewery. So if that wasn't a reason to head there, you now have that reason to head there. It'll presumably be game 3 for Devin Levi, who played both games over the weekend in Belleville. What do you think?
What I think is that the first game was, it was good for Levi. I mean, really? And the second, it was really good. I mean, he made 40 saves and then all 4 in a shootout. I'll be honest with you, I didn't see the highlights of the second game. I know the numbers, and look, they lost 4-2, and
he stopped 30 of 34.
It was fine. That wasn't, the numbers would suggest that was fine, but you're not going to go down to the AHL and all of a sudden be 29-0 in 29 games. That's not going to happen. You still have to work through your progression, your maturity, your development. And so for me, he went down with a good attitude. He seems to be working hard, a lot, and he's going to play a lot, which is also important. So I can't wait to see what the next couple of weeks will do for his playing on the ice, and if he continues to play a lot of games. So that to me is important for him to develop. So, but before we go anywhere, Duffer, because we're going to wrap it up here, I just want to ask you a question, and because we have this debate a lot about what is great, and that's not a word you like to use, and what sucks, right? And there's so. I'm not
familiar with this debate. I only know the great
debate.
Great.
Now, I came across a great clip last night of Jerry Seinfeld when he did a special for Netflix a few years back, and he says the only two way to judge things is either it's great or it sucks, but they're really close to one another, right? Because you talk to a friend and they say, hey, did you see that movie? It was great. Oh, really? I thought it sucked. It's like great and sucked are so close to one another. And he talks about food and how, you go to a restaurant and somebody says it's a great restaurant, the food kind of sucked, but you go to a ball game and you get a cold hot dog that's wrapped in foil and you love it. It's great, but it sucks, but it's great. So he talks about how great and suck are so close to one another. Okay. So I take it to the Sabres this year and I'm saying, okay, your penalty kill is better this year. It's great. Well, you know what? No, the results are not there. So really it sucks, right? You look at your shooting percentage. Last season, it was 11%. That's great. This year, it's 9.8%. It sucks. It's 1.2% away. The difference between sucks and great is so close. The save percentage. Last year it sucked. It was 890. This year, UPL is great. It's 886. It's going backwards, but it's great. The difference between great and suck is so close, right? That I feel that the last week gave you that look, and the next week could give you that look again. Sabres at this time of year last year were 11, 13, and 1. They were great early on because they started the season, 7-2, I believe, and then they lost 8 in a row. So the great and suck was right there. This year, they're not losing 8 in a row, but they've also not been in a 7-2 stretch. So they suck, but really they're the same place. So I think it's interesting. Google Jerry Seinfeld, great sucks debate. It's a fun 3.5 minutes to watch.
Suck less, be great. We'll see
More.
you soon.